Hi, I am Sophia. Welcome to True Payback, where story hits different. Hit subscribe, let's dive in.
I was 23 when I created the pitch deck that would eventually change an entire industry. It took me 9 months of research, prototype development, and market analysis. Every night after my entry-level job at a tech support company, I worked on what I called SmartSync, a revolutionary AI-powered workflow automation platform that could integrate seamlessly across enterprise systems. The idea wasn't just innovative. It was years ahead of its time. I'd identified a massive gap in how mid-sized companies managed their digital operations, and I'd designed a solution that was both sophisticated and accessible. The prototype worked perfectly. The business model was sound. I just needed funding to scale. I made one critical mistake. I trusted my family. At Sunday dinner, I excitedly shared my breakthrough with my parents. I showed them the pitch deck on my laptop, walked them through the financials, explained the market opportunity. My hands shook with excitement as I talked about the potential to transform how businesses operated. Mom barely looked up from her phone. Dad scrolled through the slides with a patronizing smile. "This is very ambitious, sweetheart," Mom said in that tone that meant she didn't believe in it at all. "But do you really think you're ready for something this complex?" "I've been working on this for 9 months," I replied, trying to keep the defensiveness out of my voice. "The technology works. I just need to find the right investors." That's when Dad dropped the bomb. "Your cousin Marcus is coming to town next week," he said, still looking at my laptop screen. "He just finished his MBA at Wharton. Top of his class. He's looking for startup opportunities." I felt my stomach drop. "Dad, this is my project." "Marcus has the credentials investors look for," Mom interrupted. "A Wharton MBA, connections in Silicon Valley, business experience. You have, what? A bachelor's degree in computer science and a job fixing printers." "I built this from the ground up," I said quietly. "Every line of code, every market analysis. Which is exactly why you need someone with real business expertise to take it to the next level," Dad said like he was doing me a favor. "Marcus could actually make this work." I should have grabbed my laptop and walked out. Instead, I made my second critical mistake. "Could you at least let me meet with him first?" I asked. "Before you share anything?" Mom waved her hand dismissively. "We already forwarded him your presentation. He's very excited about it." The room started spinning. "You sent him my pitch deck?" "Without asking me." "Don't be dramatic," Dad said. "Family shares things. Besides, Marcus has agreed to bring you on as a technical consultant once he gets it funded. 20% equity. That's generous for someone with your limited experience." 20% of my idea? My voice cracked. "His execution," Mom corrected. "There's a difference between having an idea and actually building a successful company. Marcus has the MBA. He knows how to talk to investors, how to scale operations, how to manage a board. You're good with computers. Stick to what you know." I sat there in stunned silence as they continued discussing how Marcus would present his concept to various venture capital firms they'd already contacted on his behalf. They'd used my personal connections, mentors I'd cultivated, advisors who'd helped me refine the technology, to set up meetings for Marcus. "You can work for him," Dad repeated like he was offering me a gift. "It's a great opportunity for you to learn from someone who actually knows what they're doing." I said nothing. I closed my laptop, stood up, and walked out of that house. I never went back. The next 3 months were brutal. Marcus launched Chin Innovations with my exact pitch deck, my market research, my technical specifications. He raised $2.4 million in seed funding from investors I had cultivated. He hired a development team to build what I'd already built. My parents called it the family business. They bragged about Marcus to everyone. They sent me Facebook invitations to the launch party like I should be celebrating. I received one email from Marcus. "Looking forward to having you join the team as technical consultant. Salary, $65,000. Start date flexible." $65,000. For the idea I'd created. For technology I'd already built. I deleted the email and made a decision that would define the next 7 years of my life. If they wanted to steal my first idea, I'd build something they could never touch. I lived like a monk. I took contract programming jobs that paid well but demanded every hour I had. I rented a studio apartment in the worst part of town. I ate rice and beans. Every spare dollar went into development. While Marcus was giving TED Talks about his innovation, I was coding 18-hour days. While my parents were posting LinkedIn articles celebrating their nephew's entrepreneurial genius, I was learning everything Marcus's MBA had supposedly taught him, and then going 10 steps further. I built SmartSync 2.0 from scratch. Not a copy of my stolen idea. An evolution so far beyond it that the original looked like a child's toy. I incorporated machine learning algorithms that didn't exist when I created the first version. I designed it to scale infinitely. I made it unhackable, unbreakable, and so elegantly simple that a 5-year-old could use it. More importantly, I learned the business side. I studied cap tables and term sheets. I networked with different investors, not the ones who'd funded Marcus, but the serious players who funded companies that changed the world. I attended every tech conference, joined every founder group, made myself invaluable to people who actually understood vision. I also did something Marcus never thought to do. I filed patents. Dozens of them. Every innovative feature in SmartSync 2.0 was legally protected under my name. 3 years after Marcus launched Chin Innovations, I launched Apex Automation Systems. I didn't send announcements. I didn't throw a party. I simply went live with a product so superior that within 6 months, we had captured 40% of the market Marcus thought he owned. Tech publications called it the overnight success story of the decade. Only I knew it had taken 4 years of 18-hour days and a betrayal that still burned. Year 5, something interesting happened. Chin Innovations started struggling. Turns out, having an MBA doesn't actually teach you how to innovate when your entire business model was built on someone else's vision. Marcus's product was outdated. His development team couldn't keep up with the rapid changes in AI technology. His investors were getting nervous about the company's declining market share. My parents stopped posting about him on social media. I, meanwhile, had raised $340 million in Series B funding. Apex Automation Systems was valued at $890 million. We had partnerships with Fortune 100 companies. I'd been named to Forbes 30 Under 30. MIT invited me to speak about ethical AI development. I still didn't contact my family. I didn't need their validation anymore. But I did make one strategic decision that would become relevant later. I became Chin Innovations' largest anonymous investor. Marcus never knew who was funding his struggling company. The venture capital firm I used as a proxy presented it as a consortium of silent partners interested in the automation space. They injected $47 million into Chin Innovations over 2 years, keeping the company alive while I quietly accumulated 64% of the equity. Why would I fund my cousin's company, the one built on my stolen idea? Because I was playing a longer game than any of them understood. Year 7, I received an invitation to speak at TechVision Summit, the industry's most prestigious conference. The keynote address. They wanted me to discuss the future of ethical AI in enterprise solutions. I accepted. What I didn't know until I arrived was that Marcus was also speaking, a panel discussion about lessons from startup struggles. Apparently Chin Innovations' near collapse and subsequent mysterious rescue had made him somewhat of a case study in founder resilience. I sat in the green room before my keynote reviewing my notes when I heard his voice in the hallway. Yeah, the anonymous investors saved us, but we're still barely holding on. The technology landscape moved so fast and our original product just couldn't keep up. I'm actually meeting with potential acquirers next week. My head of legal affairs, Jennifer, sat next to me. That's interesting timing, she said quietly. Very interesting, I agreed. Marcus continued talking to whoever was with him. The ironic thing is, my cousin actually had the initial concept years ago, but she didn't have the business acumen to execute. I took her rough idea and built an actual company. She's doing okay now, I guess. Some small tech thing. Jennifer raised her eyebrows. Want me to schedule a conversation? Not yet, I said. Let him enjoy the panel. I delivered my keynote to a standing ovation. I talked about innovation, integrity, and the importance of protecting intellectual property. I discussed how the most successful companies are built by founders who understand both the technical and business sides deeply, not people who steal other people's visions. The tech journalism community would later call it the most subtly savage keynote in TechVision history. After my speech, I returned to my seat in the main conference hall to watch Marcus's panel. He looked older than I remembered, tired. The moderator asked him about his biggest lesson from nearly losing his company. I learned that you can't build a sustainable business on just one good idea, Marcus said. You need continuous innovation, which is something I struggled with. The market moved beyond our initial product and we couldn't adapt fast enough. Someone else's idea, I thought. Not one good idea. Someone else's stolen idea. The panel ended. I was gathering my things when my phone buzzed with a message from my parents. First contact in 7 years. Mom, saw your keynote online. Very impressive. We should talk. I deleted it without responding. Then my phone rang. Jennifer. Marcus just announced in the networking session that Chin Innovations is being acquired, she said. He's telling people it's a major win, that the acquirer sees huge potential. Who's the acquirer? I asked, though I already knew. He doesn't know yet. Said the offer came through his board this morning. All-stock deal. He's meeting with them tonight to finalize terms. Perfect timing, I said. I need you to set up a meeting. Conference room C. 7 p.m. Invite Chin Innovations' entire board and all major shareholders. Including Marcus? Especially Marcus. And Jennifer? Make sure my parents somehow find out about the meeting. I think Dad's firm does business with one of the board members. On it, she said. I had 3 hours to prepare for a conversation 7 years in the making. Conference room C was designed for major announcements. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a table that sat 20 people and screens on every wall for presentations. I arrived 15 minutes early with my legal team and my CFO. We set up the materials methodically. Acquisition documents, patent filings, equity breakdowns, and one very special slide I'd prepared specifically for this moment. The board members arrived first, looking confused about why they'd been summoned during a major conference. Marcus came in looking nervous but excited. He thought this was the acquisition celebration. Then, because apparently the universe has a sense of dramatic timing, my parents walked in. We were told there was a major announcement about Chin Innovations, Dad said, scanning the room. His eyes landed on me and he froze. What are you doing here? I'm the announcement, I said calmly. Marcus finally looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in 7 years. Sophia? What is this? This is a board meeting for Chin Innovations, I said. Please, everyone sit down. The board members took their seats, looking between Marcus and me with growing understanding. My parents remained standing near the door, Dad's face turning red. As you all know, I began, Chin Innovations received an acquisition offer this morning. All-stock deal valued at $47 million, which represents the exact amount of anonymous investment the company received over the past 2 years. Marcus nodded slowly. Right. The buyer wants to absorb our technology and team. It's a good exit for our investors. It is, I agreed. Especially for the majority shareholder. I clicked to the first slide, the equity breakdown. As of this morning, Chin Innovations' ownership structure is as follows. Marcus Chin 23%. Original seed investors 13%. And Apex Automation Systems, through various investment vehicles, 64%. The room went silent. Marcus's face drained of color. That's not possible. Our cap table shows. Your cap table shows a consortium of anonymous investors managed through various VC firms, Jennifer interrupted smoothly. All of which are subsidiaries or partners of Apex Automation Systems. We've been your primary funding source for 2 years. You. Marcus whispered, staring at me. You've been keeping my company alive? Not your company, I corrected gently. My company. I own 64% of Chin Innovations. Which means I control the board. Which means I decide what happens to it. Dad found his voice. This is absurd. Marcus built this company from the ground up. From my pitch deck, I said, my voice still calm but carrying enough edge to silence him. From my market research. From my technical specifications. From connections I built and technology one designed. I clicked to the next slide. A side-by-side comparison of my original SmartSync pitch deck and Chin Innovations founding documents. They were identical except for the name at the top. 7 years ago you stole my idea and gave it to Marcus because he had an MBA and I was just good with computers. You told me to work for him for $65,000 a year. For my own creation. Mom stepped forward. We were trying to help you. Marcus had the business credentials to actually make it successful. Except he didn't, I interrupted. Chin Innovations would have collapsed completely 3 years ago if I hadn't anonymously funded it. The company you all celebrated, the family business you bragged about, only survived because I kept it alive. Marcus looked like he might be sick. Why? Why would you fund the company I stole from you? Because I needed you to succeed just enough to be worth acquiring, I said simply. And because 64% of a struggling company is still worth more than 100% of a failed one. I clicked to the next slide. Patent filings. Dozens of them, all in my name, all filed before Chin Innovations even launched. These patents cover every core technology that Chin Innovations uses. The AI integration algorithms. The workflow automation sequences. The cross-platform compatibility protocols. I filed them 7 years ago, immediately after you stole my pitch. The lead board member, a veteran investor named Richard, leaned forward. Are you saying Chin Innovations has been operating on technology we don't actually own? I'm saying Chin Innovations has been operating under a free license that I granted anonymously when I became the majority investor, I clarified. A license that expires the moment the acquisition closes. Marcus's hands were shaking. So if we refuse the acquisition, then I revoke the license and Chin Innovations has no proprietary technology. Your product stops working within 30 days. The company becomes worthless and I can acquire it for pennies on the dollar anyway. And if we accept the acquisition? Richard asked carefully. Then Apex Automation Systems absorbs Chin Innovations as a wholly owned subsidiary. All existing shareholders receive stock in Apex based on their equity percentage. At our current valuation of $890 million, that means Marcus's 23% stake converts to approximately $10.5 million in Apex stock. I let that number sink in. It was far more than Marcus would ever get otherwise. Current Chin Innovations employees are offered positions at Apex, with salaries adjusted to our compensation structure. The Chin Innovations brand continues as a product line under Apex management. Everyone walks away whole. Except, Dad said bitterly, Marcus loses his company. Marcus never had a company, I said, finally looking directly at my father. He had my stolen idea which I graciously allowed him to use while I built something actually innovative. Chin Innovations was always mine. You just didn't know it. I pulled out my phone and opened my text messages, projecting them on the screen. Meet a capital firm 15 minutes ago. Pull all funding from Chin Innovations immediately. I sent this text from the main conference hall after Marcus's panel, I explained. Within seconds, every line of credit Chin Innovations had was frozen. Every investor started calling. The company's operational funding disappeared in real time. Marcus pulled out his phone which had been vibrating non-stop. His face went gray as he scrolled through the messages. The acquisition offer is the only thing standing between Chin Innovations and immediate bankruptcy, I continued. You have until midnight tonight to accept. After that, I withdraw the offer, revoke the technology license and let the company collapse naturally. Your choice. The room was completely silent. Finally Richard spoke. I move that we accept the acquisition offer from Apex Automation Systems. Second, another board member said immediately. They voted. It was unanimous except for Marcus, who sat frozen, unable to even raise his hand. The motion passes, Richard said quietly. Chin Innovations will be acquired by Apex Automation Systems, effective immediately. I nodded to Jennifer, who began distributing the signing documents. Marcus still hadn't moved. 7 years, he whispered. You planned this for 7 years? I didn't plan anything, I said honestly. I just built something better than what you stole. The rest happened naturally when you couldn't innovate beyond my original idea. He looked up at me with something like desperation. The job offer. The $65,000 technical consultant position. That was real. It was what you thought I was worth, I replied. Someone good with computers who should be grateful for the opportunity to work on her own stolen creation. Mom finally found her voice, though it came out strangled. We were trying to help. Marcus had the credentials investors wanted. And I had the vision, the technology and the work ethic to build a company worth nearly $1 billion. I said. Without stealing anyone else's ideas. Without an MBA. Just me, coding 18 hours a day in a studio apartment, learning everything I needed to know. I stood up, signaling the meeting was over. The acquisition closes in 48 hours. Marcus, you'll receive communication about your stock options and potential employment at Apex. We're always looking for people with MBA credentials to handle operations. The board members filed out, most of them avoiding eye contact with Marcus. My parents stood by the door, Dad's face purple with suppressed rage. You did this out of spite, he hissed as I walked past. I stopped. No. I did this out of necessity. You taught me that family can't be trusted with your dreams. You taught me that credentials mean nothing without capability. You taught me that the only person I can rely on is myself. I looked at both of them. Thank you for that lesson. It made me $890 million. I walked out of the conference room and didn't look back. The acquisition closed smoothly. Chin Innovations became a product line under Apex Automation Systems. Marcus accepted a position as Director of Business Development, a comfortable role that used his MBA credentials without requiring innovation he wasn't capable of. The tech press called it a brilliant strategic acquisition that consolidated Apex's market position. Only a handful of people knew the real story. I received one email from Marcus after everything finalized. I'm sorry. For what it's worth, you were always the smarter one. I just had the degree everyone said mattered. I hope someday you can forgive us. I didn't respond. Forgiveness wasn't the point. My parents sent a letter, an actual physical letter, expressing their disappointment in how I'd manipulated the situation and ruined Marcus's career. They suggested family therapy. I framed the letter and hung it in my office as a reminder. 3 months later, Apex Automation Systems went public. The IPO valued the company at $2.1 billion. My personal stake was worth approximately $1.4 billion. Forbes ran a cover story, "The Entrepreneur Who Built an Empire on Ethics and Innovation." The article opened with a quote from my Tech Vision keynote. The most successful companies aren't built by stealing other people's visions. They're built by people who understand that real innovation requires both capability and integrity. I never mentioned my family in the interview. I didn't need to. The reporter asked if I had any advice for young entrepreneurs facing setbacks. Yes, I said. When someone steals your first idea, build something so much better that they beg you to let them be part of it. Then make them understand exactly what they lost when they underestimated you. Is that what you did? I smiled. That's exactly what I did. I still don't talk to my parents. Marcus works at Apex and does his job competently enough. We're professionally cordial. Nothing more. Sometimes I see my original SmartSync pitch deck, the one they gave to Marcus without permission, framed in the company archive room. Next to it is the patent filing that protected my work before they even knew what they'd stolen. People ask if I'm angry about what happened 7 years ago. I'm not. I'm grateful. Being dismissed taught me to value my own vision over anyone else's validation. Being betrayed taught me to protect my work legally and strategically. Being underestimated taught me that credentials mean nothing compared to capability. My parents thought Marcus's MBA made him more qualified to execute my idea. They were wrong. Not because MBAs don't matter, but because all the business education in the world can't replace the innovation that comes from someone who actually understands the technology they're building. Marcus could present my idea beautifully, but he could never evolve it, never push it further, never see the next iteration. That required vision he never had. I did. And 7 years later, when I texted my capital firm from that industry summit, I wasn't being vindictive. I was just finally collecting what was always mine.